There was this old abandoned house not far from my place that all the kids were scared of. It belonged to an old man in the 1930s. And every Christmas, he'd run about the town dressed as Santa, handing out toys to the neighborhood kids. But everyone else knew that he had a dark side.
Danielle, your sister is here.
You're beautiful. Scrubs up well, I guess.
The toy maker.
We have the whole town waking up to the rumor that a ghost from the 30s is going around killing people.
Lola, what is going on down there?
Do you have any enemies or any stalkers?
You're a troublemaker. Where people like you go, trouble follows.
With all that's happening now, who knows what's real anymore?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Fresh Cuts. It's Mike. Also with me, it's Venom. What's up, Venom?
Greetings and salutations, transgender podcasters. I hope we have some listening. That would be awesome. I'd love to know we have some trans fans on this show. Anyway, how the hell you doing, Mike? I'm all right.
Doing good. Just attempting to get back into the routine after the long holiday weekend. So, otherwise, just another old Monday. But also with us, it's Don and Ellie. What's up, Don?
Yeah, what's going on? Always happy to be here.
All right. So this week, nothing was in the theater. So we were searching around and came across this one that I really didn't know much about until like a day or two before we were recording. So this is really kind of on the fly. It's called Carnage for Christmas. It's another kind of shorter feature at just 70 minutes. And IMDb says Lola, a true crime podcaster, returns home for Christmas only to face a vengeful ghost, reenacting the murders of a historical. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Fresh Cuts. It's Mike. Also with me, it's Venom. What's up, Venom?
Greetings and salutations, transgender podcasters. I hope we have some listening. That would be awesome. I'd love to know we have some trans fans on this show. Anyway, how the hell you doing, Mike? I'm all right.
Doing good. Just attempting to get back into the routine after the long holiday weekend. So, otherwise, just another old Monday. But also with us, it's Don and Ellie. What's up, Don?
Yeah, what's going on? Always happy to be here.
All right. So this week, nothing was in the theater. So we were searching around and came across this one that I really didn't know much about until like a day or two before we were recording. So this is really kind of on the fly. It's called Carnage for Christmas. It's another kind of shorter feature at just 70 minutes. And IMDb says Lola, a true crime podcaster, returns home for Christmas only to face a vengeful ghost, reenacting the murders of a historical. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest episode of Fresh Cuts. It's Mike. Also with me, it's Venom. What's up, Venom?
Greetings and salutations, transgender podcasters. I hope we have some listening. That would be awesome. I'd love to know we have some trans fans on this show. Anyway, how the hell you doing, Mike? I'm all right.
Doing good. Just attempting to get back into the routine after the long holiday weekend. So, otherwise, just another old Monday. But also with us, it's Don and Ellie. What's up, Don?
Yeah, what's going on? Always happy to be here.
All right. So this week, nothing was in the theater. So we were searching around and came across this one that I really didn't know much about until like a day or two before we were recording. So this is really kind of on the fly. It's called Carnage for Christmas. It's another kind of shorter feature at just 70 minutes. And IMDb says Lola, a true crime podcaster, returns home for Christmas only to face a vengeful ghost, reenacting the murders of a historical killer. With her community at risk, she must confront the town's buried secrets to stop the slaughter. Wow, that sounds like a potentially really good movie. Is that what we got? Let's figure it out. Starting with our general thoughts with Venom. What did you think of Carnage for Christmas?
We're in a weird little trend right now that I'm not 100% happy with. 3 of the last 4 movies that we reviewed on this show have kind of had the same, how can I put this? How I felt about the film as the film progressed has been the same for 3 of the 4 last weeks, specifically Heretic and Black Cab. If you guys remember, for the most part, all 3 of us were kind of on board with both of those films for the first 2 acts. And then the 3rd act just kind of ruined all the good faith that it built with those first 2 acts. Well, our movie this week, at least in my personal opinion, once again does the same thing. For the first 2 acts of this film, I am totally on board. Well, totally might be a stretch. I'm partially on board. For the most part, I'm engaged with the mystery. Obviously, it's basically a whodunit more than anything. Yes, it's a slasher, but the way that these kill scenes are shot kind of almost take the horror element out of this movie. And IMDb even labels this as a comedy drama. They don't even call it a horror film. Now, obviously, it is a slasher. There are people being killed by, a psychotic killer. So I'm gonna go ahead and say it still counts as horror. But yeah, just the way that this movie is shot, it has a really weird visual style. This director, Alice Mackey, is obviously a LGBTQ champion. Looking back at her filmography, it seems like her last film was Satanic Panic, which I actually misread it as Satanic Panic. I'm like, oh wow, she did Satanic Panic, but then I looked at it closer. It's Satanic Panic, which I obviously have not seen. So, but yeah, like I said, going.
That's not even,
okay.
Yeah, it's just on the festival circuit. So, I mean, I've seen it, but yeah, it's just that's still on the festival circuit.
Cool. All right, so like I said, I'm on board with this film for the first, I don't know, I'd say like 45 to 50 minutes of it. I'm enjoying Lola. I'm enjoying her journey, as a transgender true crime podcaster, returning to her town, a town that knew her as a boy. Obviously, she, grew up as a boy, made the transition after moving to the big city and is now back in her hometown for the first time in many, many years. I don't know if they actually give us the timeline of how long she's been gone. She just says it's been a long time. And as soon as she gets back into town, this series of murders that kind of haunted this town when Lola was a child kind of start happening again. So, like I said, I'm on board. Obviously, Lola being a podcaster, obviously we already have that kind of personal connection with a couple of the characters in this movie. So Lola is a likable character. I like her a lot. For one thing that kind of bothered me, though, this movie is very, again, kind of disjointed. I've used that word a lot over the last month. It's like the movie spends half the time making Lola seem like this ultra intelligent true crime podcaster who's smarter than the cops in this town, apparently, though there is a reason for that, which we'll talk about later on. But for all that, she really doesn't have a whole lot to do with the discovery of who the killer is in this movie. And that's another thing. The reveal of the killer in this movie is so matter of fact and nonchalant. Like, there's no drama to it. There's absolutely no drama to finding out who the killer is in this movie. There's no dramatic unmasking scene. There's like nothing. It's just the movie is just like, oh, here, by the way, this is the killer, and here he is chasing Lola. It's like, what? Really? Are you fucking kidding me? Like, yeah. So I don't know. This is a weird movie. I probably would have Heretic and Black Cab slightly higher than this one, just for production. And that's another thing, the production of this film. I mean, this is an ultra indie film. The sound design in here was bothering me. For those who don't know, I'm a sound engineer by trade. And man, the audio in this movie was just bothering the hell out of me. It's so tinny, so poorly mixed. And I don't know if that was intentional from the director. It may have been. I don't know if it was a case of just limited equipment that they, had access to. But man, yeah, the sound design was bothering me. The way that the kill scenes were shot with lots of flashing camera shots, and like for the first kill, you almost don't know someone's getting killed. Like, there's so many flash cuts and jump cuts. It's like, what is going on right now? Like, I wasn't sure if it was a flashback or if we were actually watching present day. So yeah, this is a filmmaker that still kind of needs to hone her style a little bit. And like I said, just the completely unsatisfactory nature of this ending. Not just the reveal of who the killer is, but then what happens to the killer after, at the end of the film. It's so unsatisfactory for, a long-time horror fan that, yeah, Alice, I'm happy that you're making films, but you really need to hone your craft a little bit. I don't know. I don't know if you're trying to come up with your own style to be one of those stylistic directors where you can watch one scene of their movie and know, oh, this person directed it. But it's just your storytelling is lacking. And Alice wrote this film too. This is a writer-director situation. So yeah, I mean, she's going to need some work on both her writing and her filmmaking to really satisfy the hardcore horror fans. And obviously her target market is probably the LGBTQ community. I think I fucked that up, but I'm sorry. It's not initials that I use very often, but yeah, it seems like that's her target market. And despite that being her target market, I was kind of surprised that we didn't see a lot more just like transphobic behavior in this movie. Yes, we get a couple of scenes where Lola's antagonized by a couple of local douchebags. She has a pretty nasty interaction with the police sergeant in the town, but it just didn't feel like it was as realistic as it could have been for a small town in somewhere in the UK. It just seems like they talk about the hate and the prejudice that they face, but we don't actually see as much of it on film as I thought we would. So, like I said, this movie just comes off as kind of disjointed. I wasn't very satisfied with the ending. The kills kind of leave me wanting more. I wasn't happy with the way they were shot. I'm not happy with the sound design on this. The movie has a lot of issues, but the fact that it just leaves us with that incredibly unsatisfying ending, and that's the last taste that it leaves in your mouth, it's too bad. So yeah, I'm going to say Carnage for Christmas is middle of the road at absolute best, with an incredibly unsatisfying ending that's just going to leave hardcore horror fans a little pissed off. Maybe, newer LGBTQ horror fans might get into it and might appreciate the ending, the kind of forgiving ending, the forgiving nature of the ending. But ultimately, as a longtime horror fan, I just found it incredibly unsatisfying. So yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that for now. Carnage for Christmas, not a vital watch by any stretch. Yeah, the runtime is nice, 1 hour and 9 minutes. Yeah, rock on. That's awesome. Unfortunately, And the pacing is good. Like it definitely felt like it was only 1 hour long. But like I said, the movie is just missing so much, and it just leaves you wanting so much more, which is usually a good thing. But in this case, it's absolutely not. So yeah, I'm going to say at best middle of the road, but probably leaning more towards the bad side once you actually finish the experience. So yeah, I'll leave my general thoughts at that.
All right. Dawn, what were your thoughts on the movie?
All right. Well, before we get started, there's a few little bits of background info I can provide on this because I'm a little bit more familiar with Alice's work than I suspect both of you are, since I've seen all 5 of her films. This is her 4th one. Like I mentioned, Satanic Panic is still on the festival circuit, so that's her latest one. But there's a few things to note. First of all, I don't even think she's 20 yet. I heard that she made her first film when she was 16. So her first film is from 2002, so I don't think she's even 20 yet. So there's that. She's Australian, not from the UK. That's the other thing to mention. And the other thing is that all of her films are very, very, very heavily focused on highlighting LGBTQ and especially trans rights. Having seen all 5 of her films, I could probably count the number of characters that are straight and not actual trans actors in real life on one hand. So all of her characters are trans. At least the main characters are. Pretty much everything is focused on LGBTQ community themes and topics. One of her films, I think it's her second film. It's a film called T Blockers, which that should kind of give you a little bit of idea. The film involves around a group of, I believe they're disc jockeys. They hang around a radio station, at least, kind of similar to how the character of Alice in this one is kind of a true crime podcaster. So they kind of have like a similar job here. But it's a radio jockey that comes across this conspiracy that this group of militant extremists in the town have developed this parasite that specifically target, trans and, LGBTQ people based off this chemical that they emit. And so they have to try to, stop it from, spreading and taking over and all that kind of stuff because it's targeting their community specifically. A lot of her work focuses very heavily on, that community and that topic. So, she's coming up in the ranks, and she's definitely a name that I think more, especially in that community, should be aware of. Like I said, I think this is her 4th one, because I've seen all 5 that she's made so far. If you're interested, the first one, Sovam, is available on Shudder. I get confused. I think the second one is T Blockers, or it's called Bad Girl Boogie. I don't remember, because I think they were released out of order from how she filmed them, or at least when they were released back in Australia, because Sovam is the first one, and then Bad Girl Boogie was the second one, then T Blockers, then this one, then Satanic Panic. So at least in Australia, that was the order that she filmed them, but I don't think that was the order that they were released over here. Some of them probably got switched around somewhere, so I don't know, but I know Bad Girl Boogie is on digital. I've seen it pop up on, Tubi and Prime and various other places, but haven't seen T Blockers, oddly, so I don't know where that one is, but at least this one's available. I'm really looking forward to seeing where she's going, because I wouldn't say this is her best work. I still think that's T Blockers. I still think that's the one that I like the most. But I like it, although I am kind of in agreement with Venom in that I do find the third act to be a major disappointment here. The setup is fine. I like the, mystery angle. There's, some fun little moments where she's, interacting with her old friends and, the mystery starts popping up and it kind of, spurs her under action. She has a fun little romance with, or not like romance, but like this relationship with a co-worker of hers at the station that's trying to, race to the scene because she got sent alone. And now all of a sudden she's in the midst of this criminal spree and now, he's got to race to save her. I thought that was pretty fun. I do agree. I do think that the stalking scenes and especially what we get in the final act are a little bit of a disappointment. They're not, all that well. They do come off kind of like with the, obvious low budget limitations. I mean, I can't imagine that this was shot for more than 20,000, even over there. I don't know what, the Australian indie scene is like, but I can't imagine that it was worth, more than maybe 20, 30,000 at best. So, kind of go in with that mindset that that's kind of the, the budget that you're working with, is that you're not even working with, typical low budget movies over here in America. You're working with like grassroots indie campaigns kind of stuff at the, at its best. So, it does unfortunately rear its ugly head in the stalking scenes because they are kind of underwhelming to a degree. There's no real attempts at suspense, which is kind of a big deal with the way that they're set up. They're designed to be suspenseful, but then they're really not, just because the budget limitations kind of drag it down a little. I do like the, the motivations for the killings. I do think it kind of, ties into a lot of what her work does in the past. So, that's kind of fun, but yeah, I do think the third act is a little kind of a downer. It doesn't kind of end on the high that it really should have. Kind of feels almost like they ran out of money. Like it was one of those cases where she spent so much on like the setup and the aesthetics, because it does feel very much in line with a lot of her other films where there is not necessarily this kind of visual style, but there is kind of like an obvious, I want to say, like a specific visual style that she uses. A lot of, neon colors, a lot of like, dance studio or like, nightclub style, strobe lighting, very rapid edits, kind of like, like you're partying somewhere. And, it's just kind of like, you're really into like that kind of a culture. So it kind of plays in with that really nicely. But yeah, overall, I do think it's kind of one of those where the budget kind of, limits what it could have done. Maybe could have stuck the landing with a little bit more time, a little bit more money, but as is, I've seen a lot worse. I'm a huge Christmas horror fan, so, a Santa slasher is never going to be, unwelcome at my, unwelcomed in my viewing styles, but I can't, like Venom, I can't say it's essential. I can't say it's one of those where you have to go out of your way to watch it. At an hour and 10 minutes, it's kind of one of those, if you have to fill your gaps or you're looking for, something quick and easy, or even if you're one of those where, you only have like a specific amount of time and you can fit something shorter like this one in, before you get on with your day. I mean, give it a shot, but, don't expect, the next Krampus, the next All Through the House, or, anything like that. It's, it does have its issues, but I've seen a lot worse. But can't really think of much else. So I guess back to you.
What's funny is after you went over a little bit about her film history, it actually makes even less sense now that she didn't really lean into the transphobic hate in this movie. Like that's what I was waiting for. Lola kept talking about how her hometown didn't understand and blah, blah, blah. And like I said, yes, I understand that we got a couple of scenes, but we didn't really, it wasn't hammered home about how much this town hates Lola and her kind. And I kind of wish they would have leaned into that a little bit more. So I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah. Not having seen her other movies, I can't really comment overall, like any recurring themes or style, but in this specific movie, it seemed a little more inconsequential than maybe I would have expected, having all that background, like as far as the character and the importance of it. Not saying, there's no issue with it, but it didn't seem like a major point. There was some dialogue, like a little bit on the issue, but it wasn't like,
well, it's kind of like what I was saying. It kind of just feels more like that stuff that was like cut out because of budgetary constraints. I mean, okay. I don't know.
I mean, it is possible. Yeah, I guess it's possible. The scenes that I'm thinking of, I don't think would be very expensive to shoot. It's not like they're effects heavy by any stretch of the imagination. Like, I'm not asking for more kills. I'm asking to really like make me feel what Lola was feeling when she left this town. Like, she obviously must have felt some major transphobic hate before she left this town, but I never got that impression. That's what I'm saying. It's like, for someone who's a champion for the LGBTQ community, they didn't really lean into that. And this is a horror film, or at least, well, IMDb doesn't think it's a horror film, but I mean, for the most part, it's a horror film. I kind of just, it kind of, because Lola is barely a hero in this movie, which I obviously I can't really get into specifics about it, but it's like I really wanted to see Lola rise to the occasion, like be the Rambo of this movie, if you will. And I don't know, she ends up. I mean, I'm not going to say she's inconsequential necessarily, but I mean, hell, the drag queen does more to stop this killer than Lola does by the end of the film. But yeah, we'll get to that. Sorry, Mike, back to you, buddy.
No, it's okay. I mean, really, I'm mostly gonna echo kind of what you already said, Ben. I'm like, I thought the setup to this was interesting. I mean, we've started to see like more movies with the whole podcaster thing, like, oh, I'm gonna go solve a mystery. I didn't feel like it was leaned on too much in this, but there was a setup for that. I liked the characters for the most part. I was a little, not, I wouldn't say confused, but just I guess maybe underwhelmed is more the right word for like the reveal. It was less of a, I don't even know how would you categorize this reveal. The killer just kind of shows up and like, oh, there's the killer. Okay, I guess we have the killer now. And I think there were a couple kills with like decent practical effects, so I'll give him credit for that. They made that look pretty cool. I did like the mask that went with the Santa uniform. That was kind of cool. And this I'm trying to think, this might be like the first 2024 Christmas horror movie I've seen thus far. I was expecting, now that it's December, that they would start hitting, but I haven't really seen many at least except this one. So this is like the first official one of 2024 for me. Yeah, an hour and 10 minutes, like, I know it's funny because we've been praising like the shorter run times on movies. I feel like this one was almost a shorter runtime out of necessity because I just didn't feel like there was a lot to the story. It moves along pretty well, just because it's like there's not much meat there, so it just kind of goes. And it's kind of ironic in a horror movie, I guess a horror comedy, I guess as it's labeled, that. Like some of my favorite scenes are just them sitting around talking to each other, like having their conversations. I was like, okay, this is interesting and interesting characters. But yeah, I don't know. It's just kind of underwhelming. It's nothing I would tell anyone to run out and watch. Nothing I'm probably gonna revisit. But if you're into like kind of like the smaller, low budget indie horror movies, and I would be interested to see more of her movies though, because I'm just curious. Like, I didn't realize she already had that much of an output. I had heard about what was the one? Trans Panic, or what was it called?
Satanic Panic.
Satanic Panic. And much like you, Venom, when I had first heard like from the director of, I thought it was Satanic Panic 2.
Yeah.
And then I had to like look at it again, and I was like, oh. So kind of like in the vein of like the Addams. Now I think from what I've seen from the Addams is like better than this, but I would like to see more of her movies to see like the kind of the gambit of like what there is besides just this one. But yeah, it's a little underwhelming, unfortunately, but check it out. It's out there, and hey, you always need something to kick off the Christmas horror season, so at this point, this might be the option because I don't see a lot out there yet. I mean, we just hit December. We're
There's a couple
recording this
coming,
on
yeah.
December 2nd. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's all I got
Yeah.
without just repeating everything I already said.
Yeah, this is definitely not Knife Plus Heart by any stretch of the imagination. And like I said, I just, when I read I read somewhere that this was going to be like an LGBTQ film, like a trans friendly film, if you will. So going into it, I was just expecting a lot more of that, and maybe I mean that might be the director's intention. Maybe this being her 5th full-length feature, maybe she's kind of sick of being the sounding board for the gay and lesbian community, but I don't know. Like I said, I was really, really expecting to see a little bit more, and maybe even a little bit more on like the mask and the outfit. I agree with Mike. I actually did enjoy that mask, but they didn't do what Thanksgiving did, where Thanksgiving actually explains why the killer is using that mask and whatnot. Here, it's just it's a random Santa mask, which. That's the other thing too. Mall Santas don't wear Santa masks. They wear beards and hats and everything else. So to actually see a Santa mask is kind of interesting, especially one that's been damaged the way it was. Like this one, I don't know if that was just like the ravages of time that did that, or if maybe when the original killer, the original toy maker went on his killing spree, it damaged the mask or whatever. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more background on the mask. Once we get our reveal, it's very, like I said, not just the reveal of the killer, but the reveal of the whole conspiracy going on in this town. It's just like, really? Like that's really what we're getting? Like, I don't know. They tried to do It's a Wonderful Knife, and somehow they did it worse than even It's a Wonderful Knife, a movie that I didn't like at all. So yeah, go figure. Yeah, like I said, not a whole lot to talk about with this one, non-spoiler. And even, once we get into the actual spoiler talk, the only spoiler is just who the killer is. That's really it. The rest of it is just kind of inconsequential, like I said. But yeah, I will ask my co-hosts if they have anything else to add before we get into our spoiler section.
I'm good.
Nope.
All right, well, let's get into it. This should be a quickie. Obviously, it's an hour and 9-minute movie, but ultimately, our movie opens up with Lola. She is a podcaster. She's in the middle of recording her latest episode of a podcast with her podcast partner. She's talking about a true crime incident that she has experience with, and then they get a viewer email, a listener email, basically asking her what got you into true crime, and then she starts to tell the story of the toy maker. Back in the town that Lola grew up in, there was a man who was like a Santa Claus. He wasn't a mall Santa necessarily. He was the kind of guy that would make toys and hand them out to the local kids. So the kids all loved him, but the adults all knew that he had a dark side. He was very violent. Specifically, he was very violent towards his wife. He would have manic episodes, things like that. And apparently what ended up happening was he literally had a dream that his wife cheated on him. And he woke up in such a rage that he literally murdered his entire family, his wife and children, chopped them up into pieces, and then killed himself, basically hung himself. But at the end of that killing spree, one of the kids was missing, one of his daughters. Her body wasn't found with the rest of the family and the original killer. So what ends up happening is this town starts making they start doing like a challenge where they challenge kids to go into the house, the toy maker house, and do this certain chant. We've seen it before with the internet challenges and things like that, where they have to do a certain chant, and then the toy maker will appear in front of them and will either kill them or will tell the person, the child, the location of the missing body. But if he does tell the child the location of the missing body, he basically says, I'm telling you this, but if you tell anyone, I will come back and I will kill you. I will punish you for giving away my secret. Well, One day, Lola, as a child, which I don't think we ever get her name, her birth name in this movie, right? She's always Lola. So as a little boy growing up in this town, she's made to do the challenge. And while she's in the house, she accidentally finds a secret panel. And behind that panel, there is a pile of bones, a dead body. And yes, that is the missing body. That's the missing toy maker's daughter that they never found. Apparently, he put her in a secret compartment in his house. Well, Lola, like I said, found this body and then, of course, told the police like any normal person would, and which that kind of starts the catalyst for this whole thing is that, the killer basically has a vendetta against Lola specifically because Lola gave away the location of the missing daughter. And then obviously Lola starts to realize that, he's not, that he doesn't feel like he's actually born the right sex, that he's, a girl trapped in a boy's body. Her family ends up disowning her and she ends up leaving. And that kind of stops the murders. The murders kind of stop in the town. And then they pick up again as soon as Lola comes back to this town for Christmas. She comes back to town to visit her sister. Her sister and her father are the only family that she has left in this town, but we never see the father. Now, obviously, like she mentions earlier, the family disowned her because she was transsexual. But yeah, the fact that we never, I was convinced the father was going to be the killer, but no. Nice, I'll give Alice credit for that. Good red herring there to tell us about Lola's father, but then he's not in the movie at all. So it's pretty interesting. I thought that was cool. Of course, like I said, as soon as Lola comes back into town, literally the same night that Lola gets back into town, the killings start up again. Lola's sister's roommate ends up getting murdered along with her lover, her secret lover. They end up getting killed with a hammer. Sounds violent and gory, but ultimately it's not. I mean, the goriest kill in the whole movie is the very first one, and it's not a murder from the slasher. It's just a girl who's defending herself because her father sends a biker to look for her, and she ends up killing the biker, and we actually get some intestines fall on the floor. That's the best kill of the fucking movie. It's not even the toy maker, so go figure. So like I said, after the first night and these two people are found dead, Lola instantly becomes a suspect, and that's because the sheriff the sergeant of this town is, your standard piece of shit who, hates all gay and lesbian people. He remembers Lola from when she was a child in this town, obviously holds some deep animosity towards her. Blah, 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 like most of the town does, apparently, and actually suspects, like flat out says, I don't know that you're the killer, but all the signs are pointing to you are the killer. Either you're the killer or the killer is stalking you specifically for some reason, which is why I started to think that it was her father doing all these killings. Very much a Maxine situation, but nope, not what we get. Later on in the film, we meet, I believe, I forget what his name was. Was it David? Dave. Yeah, we meet Dave. He is the head of the historical society for this town. And he actually went to school with Lola. They're actually the same age. And Dave seems like he's very apologetic, talks about how, basically talks about how he's sorry for everything that him and his friends did to Lola back in the day, treating her like shit because she was trans. And, basically trying to prove that he's changed, that he's not the same person that he was. Well, we'll find out differently later, but as of right now, yeah. So there's Dave. And by the way, I'll keep that under my hat till the end. Anyway. More and more people are getting picked off. Obviously, they're all LGBTQ community members until finally a police officer is actually killed. And it's a police officer that's been helping Lola. One police officer, once again, someone that Lola went to school with when she was grew up in this town, actually decides to help her out because he believes that the sergeant is covering up a lot of the crimes. We get kind of a hot fuzz situation where this town seems like an idyllic, crime-free town, but what happens is every time the toy maker kills someone, they chalk it up as a botched robbery, or they cover it up completely, like they don't even make a public announcement about the murder. So obviously, that kind of leads you to believe that there's some kind of conspiracy going on with this town and the police force, and maybe even the mayor, governor. I mean, who knows how high up it goes. Like I said, we get some kills here and there. We're introduced to more members of the LGBTQ community here in the town. We actually a former high school teacher who is now a drag queen, who is probably one of the funnier characters in the movie. Actually turns out to be very helpful later in the film, but we'll get to that. And then other members of the community, too, we end up meeting. Like I said, the killer continues to kill people while Lola continues to do her investigation. I'm just going to go ahead and skip to the end. Basically, what ends up happening is Lola understands that the killings are becoming more frequent. The killer is getting more brazen and is probably going to come after her eventually. But at that exact moment, somehow the story breaks outside of the town. Like the state police get word of all the murders that are happening, and they're sending units down to this town to find out what the fuck is going on. Eventually, we find out, through Lola's investigation, that there is a conspiracy, there is a cover-up in this town, that the killer of the toy maker killer is more than likely a member of the family of the leaders of this town, because it turns out that the mayor and the police sergeant, are brothers. They're actually brothers, and they head up a group of people, that buy up properties, and they they're trying to kind of gentrify everything, make it more upscale, blah blah blah. So Lola's convinced that the killer is a member of this family, either the sheriff or the mayor himself, which we never meet the mayor, but either the sheriff himself or maybe somebody else in the sheriff's family. And what ends up happening is Alice's boyfriend Charlie ends up coming into town, and when he gets there, Lola gives him instructions to go to the historical society to talk to Dave, or to break in and to get something that Dave has. But when Charlie gets to the historical society, there's someone tied up. He can hear someone gagged behind a locked door. So he ends up using a lockpick, breaking into that door, and finding Kit, the missing sister of Alice. Because at this point in the film, Kit is missing, and nobody really knows where she is. But then, like I said, Charlie finds her at the historical society. I guess the fact that Charlie finds her tied up at the historical society is supposed to be our gasp moment, because right after that scene, it cuts to a scene of fucking Dave from the historical society wearing the Santa costume, stalking Lola without a mask on. My friends, there is literally no reveal whatsoever, no drama, no suspense, no unmasking, nothing. That's what I was saying earlier, that the reveal of the killer in this movie is so matter of fact that it's almost pointless. Like, it's almost like, really? That's it? I was so unhappy with it. But then after all that, after finding out that Dave is the killer, we finally have our final confrontation where Lola is being stalked by Dave. And by the way, which is a laughable scene, because Lola is about 5 inches taller than Dave, and she has a better weapon in her hand. She has a fucking, what do you call those things? A croquet mallet. She's got a fucking croquet mallet in her hand. Or no. It's an Australian.
Isn't it a cricket?
It's not a cricket bat. No, the cricket bats are flat and wide. But this thing is an Australian, I think it's a weapon. I think it's an Australian Aboriginal weapon, because I could swear I've seen it. For those of you who watched Avatar: The Last Airbender, the animated series, Sokka's weapon is the weapon that I'm talking about. If you remember Sokka's weapon, it had like a hook at the end of it. That's the thing that Lola is holding in this final scene. So like I said, Lola is like 5 inches taller than Dave, has a better weapon because Dave just has a regular hammer. He just has a regular size claw hammer, and she has this big aboriginal weapon in her hand. And I'm thinking, this is going to be stupid. This is going to be like the dumbest confrontation ever. Somehow Dave does get the upper hand. He's able to get the upper hand on Lola. He kicks her a couple of times, knocks her on the ground. He grabs a hacksaw, puts it up to her neck, and of course, like any good villain, rather than just killing Lola right away, he's got to start monologuing. And that's when we find out that Dave is a fucking tranny hunter. He's a guy that fucking he's so fixated with transsexual women that he wants to be with one. And apparently back in 2018, he actually tried to hit on one of the local trannies in the town and got rejected and ended up killing that person, or attempting to kill that person, but the person ended up getting away. So it wasn't chalked up as an official murder, attempted murder, but of course the police covered it up because it's Dave. I don't know if we ever find out what Dave's relationship is to this family? Nephew? Oh, nephew. That's right. She does say it. It's the sergeant's nephew. So Dave is the sergeant's nephew, which is why the murders have been getting covered up this entire time.
The best part of you asking that question is figuring it out mid-sentence.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I couldn't remember if they gave a relationship, but then I remembered Lola saying, "Oh, your nephew," or something like after your nephew killed Beer Can, because Beer Can was the name of the transsexual that he tried to hit on and then got rejected. Blah 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 blah. And then other people had also been killed since then, but it was always covered up. So everybody always thought that the town was kind of, crime free, like I said, like the town in Hot Fuzz. But no, this town is actually houses a serial killer, a rather prolific one at this point, because he's, already killed a slew of people dating back to 2018. So yeah, go figure. Okay, then after the reveal and after Lola and Dave get, into a fight, then the drag queen former high school teacher shows up with these big cone, like the bra, like the big Madonna cone bras. This made me fucking laugh. She literally hits Dave in the face with one of them. She literally swings her entire body so that the cone hits Dave in the face. It drops Dave to the ground. The drag queen then grabs the hacksaw, and she's literally about to cut Dave's head off. But then, and this is the part I don't understand. I don't know. Are transsexuals like way more forgiving than other people? Because they have the opportunity to kill Dave to end it, but instead Lola says no, don't kill him, and then she just tases him. And I'm thinking to myself, well, wait a minute. You already know that this entire town is going to cover up for this guy. Why the fuck would you let him live? Why would you take the chance that they're going to cover it up again, or worse, blame you for everything and say that you have a vendetta against him, something crazy like that? Like, I just don't understand the mentality of letting this guy fucking live. A guy who almost killed your fucking sister. Almost killed your fucking sister, and you're gonna let him live. And as soon as they tase him and knock him out, the sergeant and another one of the cops show up, and we're just expected, and then the movie just ends, and we're expected to believe that, oh, Dave, got his comeuppance, and which they do. There is a throwaway line at the end where they say that Dave is in a mental institution, but it's like, really? What fucking world would this ending be satisfying to a horror fan? It is a fucking horror movie, and you send him to imagine Jason Voorhees getting sent to a mental institution, for fuck's sake. I'm sorry.
I'm kind of into it. That sounds fun.
Well, maybe that could be a fun movie, but anyway, The point is, like I said, this entire third act is so unsatisfying. The reveal of the killer, some of the kills in the film, and then the fact that they let the killer live so that he can, spend time in jail or get released in 10 years on good behavior. It just doesn't make any fucking sense to me. That's why I'm kind of leaning towards saying this is not a horror movie. This is a drama with some kills in it. You know what I mean? This is a comedic drama thriller with a couple of bloody kills in it, but it doesn't have the tropes of a horror film other than the killer wearing a mask. Like, that's about it. That's about the only trope, traditional horror trope that this movie follows, which, like I said, it could be a good thing. You know, sometimes we like when movies swing for the fences, try to do things that we've never seen before. But my God, you have to give us some kind of satisfying ending. I don't understand how Lola has lost about a half dozen friends from her hometown, plus her sister was attacked, and she decides to let this guy live. Like, how is she not slicing his balls off and feeding them to him is just beyond me. Now, obviously, I've said it before and I'll say it again. I'm a very vindictive and petty person, so it kind of tracks that that's what I would do. But I don't know. I just don't understand Lola's motivation at all in this. And yes, I understand she's trying to build a career as an investigator, not a real one, maybe a private investigator, but you know, it's not like she's taking police training or anything, but she's obviously already better than the cops in this town. But that's what I was saying earlier, too, is that the first half of the movie is trying to set up how intelligent Lola is. But then Lola has nothing to do with figuring out who the killer is. Dave just exposes himself. So it's like, why did we need this ultra intelligent true crime podcaster if Dave's just going to show up without his mask and be like, Lola? And he was literally calling out her name in that scene. Lola, just, oh my God. I literally wanted to turn the movie off right then and there. If we weren't reviewing it, I probably would have. But yeah, this is a movie, like I said, there's a lot to be desired here. But I feel like there's a lot more that kind of is disappointing, underwhelming, unsatisfying. I mean, pick the adjective you want to pick. But yeah, I walked away from this movie thinking that it could have been great, but instead it's just going to be another middle of the road foreign film that I'll forget by next week probably. And that's too bad because, like I said, there is something here. So I'm not against watching more of Alice Mackey's movies moving forward, and maybe Satanic Panic, because as of right now, Satanic Panic is her highest rated film. But of course, the film hasn't been officially released yet. So that's just all film festival reviews and whatnot, which, you know, sometimes could be a little bit overly positive. So we'll see. But yeah, I do think that there's definitely the beginnings of a great writer-director here. It just, yeah, she's going to need some work. And Don saying that she's so young also makes a lot of sense too. So if she really is in her early 20s, then maybe I'll see. What's that?
I don't even think she is 20. I think she's still in her teens.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, they said her first film was when she was 16, and that was 21, 22. So I don't even think she's 20 yet.
Oh, I thought her first film was 2017. My bad. Let's see here. Oh, no, you're right. Yeah. Oh, her first full length, because she's got shorts. Like, she's got shorts dating back to 2017.
Probably.
So, I mean,
I don't know. I thought when I saw So Vam, I thought they said that she was 16 when she made it.
When she made Vam. I mean, it's possible, but that would have made her, like 11 in 2017? Well, less, actually. I mean, because she's got a writing and directing credit for 2 episodes of a series called Book Club from back in 2017. Writing and directing credit. So, I mean, if she was 16 in 2017, then that would make a little bit more sense to me. So that would make her like 23 now, something like that. But either way, I mean, you know, regardless of her exact age, the fact that she is in her early 20s or 20 does show that there's promise there. I mean, like I said, it's not the worst movie I've ever seen. It's not even the worst movie I've seen over the last month by any stretch of the imagination. So, hopefully, like I said, she kind of learns the craft of storytelling a little bit more, because artistically she's fine, even though I didn't really like the visual style to her kills and some of the stalking scenes. It doesn't mean that it wouldn't work for other viewers. And, I appreciate that. So, if you're someone who's watched this movie and actually like the visual style of it, that's awesome. There's nothing wrong with that. But just for me, especially with that first kill, like I said during the walkthrough, it felt like a flashback. Like I didn't know if I was watching like something that was happening right then and there, or if it was something that happened years ago. Just the way that it's shot with the jump cuts and the weird color filtration, like all of it. It definitely shows a young director who's still trying to find her niche. So like I said, hopefully when she finds that niche and truly learns how to tell a good story, she may be a great director. So, fingers crossed. I'm rooting for you, Alice. I really am. Despite me not liking this movie that much, like I said, I can see the elements of a promising career moving forward. So, yeah. That's pretty much it for me, Mike.
Okay. Trying to think. Anything? What the hell's getting released this week? Anything?
Werewolves in theaters. Yeah, werewolves. I'm excited because it looks like it leans more towards action, more like Dog Soldiers, rather than the horror like The Howling. So if that's the case, if we're getting like another action-packed, werewolf movie.
Wait, what's the name of it?
Werewolves. Just werewolves.
Oh, literally. Okay.
It opens everywhere this Friday. And I accidentally saw the trailer, and it does look kind of interesting. It looks like it's like some scientists are trying to figure out how to isolate and cure the lycanthropy gene. You know what I mean? So there's like science scenes, there's like experimental scenes and shit going on, and transformations, blah, 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 blah. I was trying not to look up at the trailer too often because I was in a theater. But I did look up periodically and saw that it was something almost like Daybreakers. Remember Daybreakers, that vampire movie where they were trying to figure out a cure for vampirism? It kind of looks like that.
Vaguely, yeah. I think I've seen it once when it came out, and I haven't revisited since.
Yeah, same here. I saw it in theaters because my wife, Mrs. Venom, adores vampires. So any vampire movie that comes out in theaters, we go to see together. So yeah, we definitely saw that one, and she kind of enjoyed it. She kind of liked the concept of it. It's not a classic by any stretch of the imagination, but it's decent.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've mostly, when I've been at the theater, I've mostly been getting trailers for that new Wolfman movie. So when you said werewolves, I was like, wait, I thought that doesn't come out till early next year. So this is a different movie.
Yep.
I can't say that I mean, it's possible because with all the movies, we go to see in the movie theaters, sometimes a trailer that might have only played once or twice, it gets lost in the shuffle. But I can't say I have seen this trailer. But you said it's a wide release?
Yeah, the trailer played before Heretic for me.
Oh, interesting.
Because it definitely didn't play, because I didn't see anything last weekend, or this weekend for that matter. So Heretic is the last time I went to the theater, and yeah, it played before that. And it looks big budget. It looks like a big budget action movie. So, I mean, fingers crossed.
Well, since you saw the trailer, did they offer any looks at like what a possible transformation scene, or like what the werewolves themselves look like?
That's what I mean. There was absolutely transformations in the trailer. As soon as I saw a werewolf, I looked down. I mean, don't forget, I try not to watch trailers. So it's not like I watched the trailer. I was in the theater when the trailer played, and periodically I would look up from my phone and see a werewolf running around or whatever. So just look up the trailer. Watch the trailer when we're done here. I mean,
yeah, I'll check it out because there's a chance I queue it up and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember this, so that's possible too. All right, well then that's most likely what we're going to be covering then on our next episode. So before we get out of here though, let's see what else we got new. I kind of did that out of order. I usually do the next episode thing last. But Venom, anything new?
about the same stuff that I've had over the last couple of weeks. Creature Comforts episode 32, still our latest episode. We will be recording the next episode of Creature Comforts in the coming week or two. So look out for that before the holidays. And let's see, the main show, Mike, I think, did you put out episode 63, Mike?
No, I put out our
Not yet. Oh, okay.
Thanksgiving commentary. I'll probably be putting out 63s later this week.
Oh, okay. So, I mean, you do have the our Thanksgiving holiday commentary where we looked at Thanksgiving, which was definitely an interesting commentary to say the least. And the only other new thing that I have is a guest spot on the not so what is it? The not so dark
Eternal Darkness of Not So Spotless Minds.
The Eternal Darkness of the Not So Spotless Minds. Thank you, Don. Jesus, fucking long ass podcast titles. Anyway, and I've never even seen the movie that title is based on. I know it's based on a Jim Carrey movie, but I've never seen it, so I don't know. Anyway, it's a
really good movie. Not that it matters in pertains to the show. But.
Sure. So I actually did a guest spot on episode 50 of that show, historic episode 50. And they did something that they've never done on the show, which was a movie commentary. So I actually did 2 movie commentaries on Thanksgiving weekend, which was interesting. But for that show, for Kate and Matt's show, I did the first Terrifier. We looked at the first Terrifier. And what's funny is that Matt, Kate, and myself were the only podcasters on the show. We had 2 other guests on the show who were not podcasters, just kind of basic movie fans, like friends of Kate and Matt. But I thought they did pretty well. So yeah, I did see that the episode is out. It was released yesterday, so check that out. That is episode 50. Like I said, The Eternal Darkness of the Not So Spotless Mind podcast, episode 50. You can hear my dulcet tones making fun of Art the Clown and all the stupid white people that he kills. Otherwise, that's it for me. It's been a pretty slow holiday season. Hopefully Crystal Lake Gift Shop will be back before the end of the year. I really hope so. Now that I'm done with all my Godzilla watching and everybody else is done with their October watching, before we start getting into our rewatches for our top 10 list, hopefully we can get the gang together to do another Crystal Lake Gift Shop. And like I said, there'll definitely be another Creature Comforts before the end of the year. Hopefully there'll be at least one more. Obviously, Mike's going to release episode 63 of the main show, No More Room in Hell, either later this week or next week. And then hopefully we'll get one more episode in, at least one more episode, maybe an episode and a commentary. But, I try not to get too overzealous with our scheduling. Just it's hard to get 3 guys in different parts of the country together. So. And that's everything I have, folks. Like I said, it's been kind of a slow holiday season podcasting for me, but hopefully after the new year, I'm going to jump back into it, start being a podcasting whore like I used to be. That's it for me.
All right. How about you, Don?
I don't have much either. Creature Comforts, latest episode available. Looking forward to the new one. Still unreleased as of yet, but my guest appearance with the Joe Blow Horror Show, where we looked at the Spanish zombie slasher hybrid Cemetery of Terror. And I can't think of anything else, so that's about it for me.
All right. For me, other than our main shows, nothing new. I do have a guest spot scheduled. Well, I wouldn't even say scheduled, but signed up for with Cut to the Chase. What do they call it? 12 Days of Chasing. I don't know if they still use that name, but for their holiday theme. But I'm signed up for something with that, so I assume it's going to be happening in the next couple of weeks. We're like in December now, so
fingers crossed.
Yeah, it's kind of like if I'm just a guest on someone else's show, I kind of leave it up to them to reach out and we'll figure it out. But anyways, yeah. So next week it looks like we'll be doing werewolves, and we'll go from there. Because we're I think we've already discussed on. I can't remember if we discussed on the episode or after airing. We're likely going to do an episode on Nosferatu because it's just too big of a release, even though that's normally the time of the year that we would be off. So we're probably still gonna generally take the second half of December off, and we will just do like the bonus episode for Nosferatu anyway, because it's not often we get like a big horror theatrical release at the end of the year like that, and it would kind of feel weird not doing it and then figuring out, well, do we still include it in a top 10 if and all that. So we're gonna do an episode on that. So that will most definitely likely be the last episode of 2024 proper. Yeah, for sure. But other than that, yeah, thanks everyone for listening. We will catch you in a week with a new one. Let's say bye to our listeners.
Later.
If you get a chance to kill the guy who's killed about a half dozen of your friends, fucking kill him. Okay? Going to jail is not a punishment. Kill that fucker. That is all.
I concur.